Yes.
Sounds good? Okay. Well, I'm Tracy Thomason, and this is an interview for LCC 3403, my research project about how to increase membership attendance at National Society of Black Engineers Fall Regional Conference in Region 3. So, here I have Erick. Here I have Erick Malveaux, and I'll let him answer a few questions for us. So, Erick, can you briefly describe your involvement with NSB?
Okay, well, I've been in Nesby's probably since high school, in my PCI chapter back in Louisiana. Once I started school, I've actually had several office positions, including chapter secretary, chapter parliamentarian, and this past year I served as Region 3's vice chairperson.
Okay, so you had a regional position.
Yes.
Gotcha. So what is your overall impression of Fall Regional Conference?
My overall impression of the conference is basically our annual convention on a smaller scale. It's basically used to focus on companies that come in from certain from the actual regions. As you know, Nesby is divided into 6 different regions, as well as to get for the regional boards to be a little more intimate with their members. You get to know these people, get to see their faces, get to see the work that they do out in real time.
Gotcha. So for the members, like, is your overall impression good? Is it bad? Is it something you think that they benefit from?
Yes,
like,
definitely.
Wholeheartedly. Okay.
Definitely. If it's done correctly and the members are willing to open up and be willing, it can be a great learning experience and open so many doors for so many different opportunities.
Okay, gotcha. So do you think, knowing what you know, do you think that most members of Region 3 are interested? I mean, I think you know a lot more, being more involved than the normal member, but do you think that, do you get the impression that they are interested in attending Fall Regional Conference?
Yes and no. Yes, because when it seems like you're new to school, like a lot of freshmen and the underclassmen, they're a little more excited to do the regional conferences. When it comes to being a little older to the upperclassmen, we're not as interested, so that's why I said yes and no. But in general, the effect for me talking to different members of different chapters, they seem pretty interested in coming. It's just more or less getting to the conferences.
Okay. So that's what I was going to ask you next. What do you think keeps them from coming if they're interested?
The first thing I would definitely have to say is the price. Now, that's in the past years. Every year we get a new board and everything works really well. For example, this year in particular, if you have a GPA of a 3.0 or above, you can actually go to Fall Regional Conference for free. But that's just submitting the transcript, encouraging students to do that. So I would say in past it's been the price, but now it's more I see on just general knowing information about the different conferences and the aspects of it. Because I've been to several chapters, and the main thing that they encourage the members to do is, well, you can go to either Fall Regional Conference or the annual convention that we usually have in the spring. But by that time, most of the regional companies have already given out most of their internships, handed out most of their scholarship money. So it's a little restricted. Plus, you have to compete against all the members that are at the national convention. And we're talking about schools from all over the United States. So I think when it comes to attending FRC, it should be more important to focus more on that than annual convention, especially when it comes like to business and learning. But those are the main two things. Now, I know another issue that a lot of people have is usually the location of the conference. Now, being on the regional board, if you actually, a lot of people who don't read the Constitution, we actually have it written up saying that we have to do certain rotations in certain states at certain times. So when it comes to picking a city, it's technically on our side, but at the same time we give chapters the opportunity to host the conferences. Because in Nesby's past, it actually wasn't the regional boards, national boards planning the conference; it was the chapters.
Right.
So, for example, about 4 or 5 years ago, there was a conference here in Atlanta, and the lead was were like students from Atlanta, from the Atlanta area, which was still good, but it wasn't like all the chapters in Atlanta weren't coming together to host it. And when it comes to another thing about location to understand about is the finances coming from the national side. So yeah, we would love to have all our conferences in Atlanta, in Orlando, in Miami, but we can't afford them. Plain and simple. And then also trying to think of when we look for like hotels and stuff, we get everything prorated. And that also comes into terms where we're trying to find places that are feasible for college students. So, like I said, having conferences, like I remember we had it in Atlanta, it was more on the outskirts, not in downtown, but we know that because downtown Atlanta is very pricey, especially for college students.
Okay, so that is why students that are interested may not attend.
Right.
So price of registration. What about price of travel? Do you think that's an issue?
Now that's one that we have a lot of issues with that everybody in every region is trying to work on. Region 3 personally, we encourage all our members to try and get together with other chapters and possibly figure out ways to be a little more feasible to maybe ride the bus together, or like when it comes to annual convention, flying together, and different things of that nature. But that comes down to the communication of the individual chapters, because if the people who are in charge of these conferences and planning for them aren't talking to each other, then they'll have an issue compromising on what to do and how to pay for it.
Right. Okay, so why do you think that students that aren't interested might not be interested?
Mainly from, I would say, generally the reactions that they get when it's discussed at meetings. I know coming from the chapters that I've been involved with and seeing the other chapters, it's a little, when it's the larger size chapter, they're a little more biased to just going straight to annual convention. They love going to FRC, don't get me wrong, but they really push forward to going to convention. With FRC, technically will give you more, allow you more resources.
So you think it's the impression that the chapter
Right.
gives on us?
Definitely.
Okay, so what do you think of NSBE's advertisement for the conference? Do you think it's going good? Do you think more like via Facebook, Twitter, internet? How do you think their communication is from the region or national office to the students?
Well, for that, in particular, when it comes to advertising, there is only so much that we can do. I mean, like I said, I was on the regional board, I've served, I've gone to national exec board meetings, and seeing from all the issues that the boards have to collaborate on and problems they have to solve, advertising is something that we do consider, and I believe that when each regional board tries their best to do it. But I mean, the only other possible way, because I've seen different methods from Facebook to doing G-chats and doing everything just to encourage people. It's just really the students' morale to attend.
Right.
Like, it's something like, honestly, I feel like NSBE's doing the best they can when it comes to the advertising.
Right. Okay. So if you could have two suggestions that you could make to increase attendance at FRC, what would they be? And ignore any resources, just if you had infinite resources, what would get 100% of these students to FRC every year? Two things.
Okay. The first one, which would be my no limitations feasible one, would possibly just make our NEB and REB work. Like, fly them to every chapter, make them talk to people, help them, encourage them to work. Have Dr. Carl Mack come in and talk to every chapter and do all that. Now, the second thing that if I had like no holds barred can do whatever, from there is just basically give them the conference. Like, okay, you all can come to the conference, travel included, everything for $30. Like that's the only two things that I can see, because like I said, just from my experience, the biggest issue that I've seen people deal with is either lack of interest or not being financially stable to attend.
Right. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for that.
No problem.
Take care.
All right, you too.